7 years ago, Yasiel Puig told Milwaukee to suck his big he told Milwaukee. The Dodgers beat the Brewers. They took them out in 7 games, and it was as if they cursed them moving forward. 2019, the very next year, they're ahead of the Nationals late. They have the nastiest reliever on the mound just for Juan Soto and Trent Grisham to team up and blow the game for the Brewers. 2020, I don't care what happened that year. That year doesn't exist. 2021, the Brewers won their division, took on the Braves, and beat them in the first game just to lose 3 in a row and get bounced. Okay, I said I didn't care about 2020, but it plays into a narrative, so now I care about 2020. 3 years in a row from 2019 through 2021, the World Series winners started off their playoff run by beating the Brewers. That's the most the Brewers have contributed to a ring in their franchise's history. 2023, they lost to the D-Bags, who didn't win it all, but did win the pennant. So if you go back to 2018, at that point, if a team beat the Brewers in the playoffs, it meant they at least were winning the pennant too, meaning they were the best team in the National League. So at the very least, with all these first round bounces, it was to the best team in the league. Well, then the Mets came along, beat the Brewers, who choked yet again, but didn't win the pennant. They lost the next round to the Dodgers, the first team to beat the Brewers and not at least make it to the World Series. So of course it was the Mets that did that. Leave it up to them to ruin that trend. Overall point is, the Brewers since 2018, since Puig, the Brewers haven't been able to get past the first round. And with them finishing not just at the top of their division again, not just the top of the National League, but at the top of all of baseball, Brewers finished with the best record in all of baseball this year. So yeah, the pressure to finally get past the first round was bigger than Lizzo before Ozempic. So thank you for being here, subscribed or not. And if you haven't joined the 49% Elite Humans, consider hitting that button if you like the videos, as not only did the Brewers have just that much more pressure being the #1 seed, but they were also taking on the Cubs. Like, if there's one team Milwaukee would hate losing to, it's them. So off we go, and before fans could even fully get into their seats, before anyone even realized the Cubs and Brewers were playing each other, Michael Busch sends one out. 1-0 Cubs, and before you can even process that, the Brewers started cracking hits everywhere, like boom, bam, boom, boom, boom. Imagine stealing a candy bar from a gas station, and in retaliation, that gas station nukes your neighborhood. That's what happened for the Cubs this inning, and really the whole game. Brewers score another 3 in the second inning. They put up 9 runs in the first 2 innings, and we're like, okay, we're done. Good game, everyone. That's way more than enough. Freddie Peralta, bro's got to be one of the more underrated pitchers in baseball. He has a great outing, 9 strikeouts. Brewers win 9-3. Then before you could even realize the Brewers won this game, before anyone processed what happened, Seiya Suzuki hits a 3-run bomb to kick game 2 off. Great answer by the Cubbies after what happened in game 1, except here's the issue. You see, there's a guy named Andrew Vaughn. He was on the White Sox to start this season and was statistically the worst hitter in baseball. I don't know exactly where he ranked, but he genuinely may have been the worst. His numbers were that bad. Turns out he had an under-the-table deal with Milwaukee to tank his numbers in Chicago so the Brewers can get him for a bag of chips. And the benefit for Vaughn here is the Brewers promised to inject him with some sort of serum that would turn him into Barry Bonds. And so that's exactly what happened. So we got Barry Bonds if he was 5 inches shorter, pale as a ghost, and batted right-handed for some reason, answering Seiya's 3-run homer in the only way he knows how, with a 3-run homer. Checkmate, bitches. Couple innings later, William Contreras sends one to damn Green Bay. Cubs have been operating very differently in the playoffs. Most teams do. They start doing things that are just different with it being a short series. But the Cubs used their closer, Daniel Palencia, earlier in games. And by earlier, I mean in the 4th inning. Well, 9th inning, 4th inning, 4th period, 4th quarter, don't matter. Jackson Chourio gonna take you deep. And Pico Armstrong forgets for a moment that he's white and can't jump that high. And his head, this is what happened until he snapped back to reality. The Cubs opened this game up with 2 hits, one of them being a 3-run home run. Turns out that was just vicious blue balling for Chicago. They get 2 hits over the rest of the entire game. Brewers score early again, and that's all they needed. 7-3, they take a 2-0 series lead to Chicago. And for the 3rd straight game in this series, both these teams score in the 1st inning. Brewers get their first run on a sac fly before Michael Busch hits one into the clouds to greet Jesus, comes back down and lands in the first row for a game-tying shot. And this would have been 20 rows back if it weren't for the win. Shout out Ella Langley. Cubs were not done. Nico Horner base hit. Kyle Tucker walks. Quinn Priester finally gets an out, but even that's a struggle. It's a rocket off the bat of Seiya. Frelick makes a great play on. Well, then another walk. Ian Happ loads the bases up, but Carson Kelly down swinging. Okay, 1 out away from getting out of this. Never mind. Pico Armstrong sends this one in the right. 2 runs score. It's 3-1 Cubbies. Out goes Priester, who should have been a child predator instead. He would have gotten more leeway. In comes Nick Mears, who throws this ball away. Happ scores. It's 4-1 Cubs, and that's all they get. And all they'd score the rest of this game. That's a trend here. The home team scores all these runs in the first few innings. In this case, just the 1st inning. And that's it. Well, it works, I guess. But because they stopped after that inning, it looked like the Brewers were going to come back and work their devil magic to a sweep. Unfortunately, Jake Bauers was the only guy who remembered how to hit the rest of this game. He drives one home in the 4th and smacks one out in the 7th with nobody out. First pitch thrown of the inning. Boom, 4-3, just for the next 3 Brewers to be set down. But the 8th inning was their best shot. Jackson Trio leadoff double. In comes Caleb Thielbar, who gets a couple outs but walks Contreras. Runners on the corners. In comes Brad Keller, who immediately walks Caleb Durbin on 4 pitches. So bases loaded, and it's actually perfect for the Brewers. Up comes the man who is the reason this game is even a 1-run game to begin with. The best hitter they could ask for, so of course he goes down swinging. Keller in for the 4-out save, and he gets it. Brewers go down 1-2-3 in the 9th. Cubs stay alive. Game 4, and for the first time in this series, nobody in the top of the 1st inning scored, but for the 4th time in this series, someone in the bottom of the 1st inning did, and it was via another 3-run homer. Don't fact check me, but this has to be like number 8, and the Cubs just dominated this game. 5 of their pitchers ended up holding the Brewers to 3 hits. They do absolutely nothing. While the Cubs had a little home run party, Kyle Tucker smacks one out, then Michael Busch hits another home run. That's 4 of them for him in this series, a series that is now going back to Milwaukee. And all of a sudden, you're thinking, ah, shit. Not only could the Brewers possibly lose this series and get bounced in the 1st round again, but they'd be doing it in the worst way they've done it yet, blowing a 2-0 series lead. It's like they were collecting how to lose in the 1st round infinity stones, all the possible ways they can make their fans cry. So here we go, Game 5, win or go home, one of the most important games in Brewer history. And the postseason is a different animal, man. I mentioned how the Cubs have been using their closer in like the 4th inning every game this postseason. Well, the Brewers said 2 can play that game and put their closer in the 1st inning. Trevor Miguel, who was Milwaukee's dominant closer this season before going on the injured list, he was out for all of September except the very, very end, like the literal final day of the season. He came back and pitched an inning. So he hadn't pitched much over the last month and only threw a combined 1 inning over 2 outings in this series. Well, now he's out there starting Game 5 and did his job. 1-2-3 inning, Kyle Tucker sit down. McGill is fired up. Cubs have not their closer starting, but another one of their late inning relievers starting. Drew Pomerantz. Sorry, that's what I called him when he had an ERA over 6 with the Red Sox in 2018. Fun fact, this man was in the Red Sox bullpen during a World Series game that went 18 innings with the Dodgers. He was so bad, the Red Sox were willing to let Nathan Eovaldi throw until his arm fell off before even thinking about putting Pomerantz into the game. Well, he's actually had a pretty good year. This year, his 1st season in 4 years. I didn't realize that. Pomerantz's last pitch with the Padres in 2021 got hurt and was just a minor league guy for 4 years until this year with the Cubs. Now he's starting Game 5 for them. So, hey, anyone can redeem themselves, even Poopy Pants. And with 2 outs in the bottom of the 1st inning, just when you think, wait a minute, this is about to be the 1st game all series without someone scoring in the 1st inning, William Contreras says, psych, boom, into the Brewer bullpen. Nice catch by their bullpen catcher on a home run hit by the starting catcher. Hey, look at that. Jacob Mizorowski into the game now for the Brewers, and the 2nd pitch he throws gets swatted out by Isaiah Suzuki into the Cubs bullpen. So both teams trading bullpen shots so far. Courtesy to them, though, they're hitting it to their own bullpens and not trying to hurt the other players. Respect. Andrew Vaughn's got to have a lot of respect for this country. He probably served in World War II the way he responds to a Japanese person hitting a bomb. He answered Suzuki's 3-run homer with a 3-run homer in Game 2 and answers his solo homer in Game 5 with another solo home run. Brewers back on top, and Mizorowski and the rest of the Brewers bullpen locked in after this. Cubs did get the first 2 guys on in the 6th, looking like they're about to come back just for Aaron Ashby to strike out Kyle Tucker. In comes Chad Patrick, who would get 2 straight outs, the last one being a strikeout of Ian Happ. Inning over, next inning, Patrick stays hot. Carson Kelly swing and a miss. Dansby Swanson, sit down. Bottom of the 7th, Bryce Terang sends one to deep center, and once again, Pete Crow Armstrong thinks he's from Compton, California, when in reality, he's from Sherman Oaks. Just shoot your shot. There's no issue with that. The shot. Top of the 8th, in comes Abner Uribe, who is probably the best reliever for the Brewers. It's between him and McGill. Uribe has given the Brewers the most innings, so he's got to be the most valuable. And other than a walk to Michael Busch, the man with 4 homers in this series, so if you're going to walk one guy, I guess it'd be him. He dominates, per usual. Scoreless 8th inning, go to the 9th, Cubs down to their final 3 outs, and nobody in Milwaukee can remotely celebrate yet. If there was ever a time to wait for the fat lady, it's right now. And 3 outs later, it becomes official. The Brewers are moving on to the NLCS for the first time since 2018 when they faced the Dodgers. And who will they face now? The Dodgers. But there's even more context to why this matchup happening again is so poetic than just what happened 7 years ago when the teams were mostly very different. This season, the two played each other 6 times. Call the Brewers MJ. They went 6-0. They're 8-0 against the Dodgers going back to last year. So if I'm a Dodger fan, there's no other team I'd want to beat more. And if you're a Brewers fan, I think it's safe to say you get full-on owning rights if you win this series. But for right now, I'm just glad they finally got past the first round. I think they deserved that. They did it against their biggest rival. They did it for the great Bob Uecker. He's happily watching from up above. So exciting times for Milwaukee right now. Let me know your thoughts, and thank you for watching. Love you. Bye.